Oh. Okay then. Hello, happy Tuesday. Okay, I gotta make this quick because believe it or not, it's Saturday for me. I've got shit to do. Okay, so let's make this quick. What I want to talk about today is expressions because they are freaking useful. Some more than others. And I believe that some expressions you should really know by heart, and the others you just need to know that they exist, right? So you just Google them, and they come up, and you're like, it's the expressions that you use maybe like once every quarter or something. Right, let's start with all the way over here. We'll just talk about sort of, let's say the heart of expressions in Nuke is just frame, because frame is a monotonically increasing thing with time. It will, I should really show you my viewer, huh? So when frame increases, the value increases, right? Makes sense. It just goes linear or the other way. I don't know. My webcam is mirrored. Cool. So I think everyone understands that, right? So a frame, if you type in I'll show you here actually. If I have a radial and I type in, frame times 50, frame can also be shown as X or as T. T stands for time, I think, and X, I don't know. It's just a simple letter for that. So X times 50, it will increase to the right with 50 pixels per frame. Right, if we look at the curve editor, it is monotonically increasing. And I did it for the Y as well, but X time, frame times 10, all pretty simple. And pretty much every expression in Nuke is, a lot of expressions in Nuke are built around, at least the wave expressions are built around X, because it's sort of already moving, if that makes sense. So you could also do that with the rotation. If you go into the rotation, type X, it just turns. You can also do minus X and it will turn the other direction. So this comes in handy when you want to animate a windmill, for instance, and you're like, don't want to animate fucking X, When does this also come in handy? Very handy. And this I use all the time. You can just put an X and like divide it or multiply it, whatever suits your needs, and divide it by 20 in this case, and you just have a moving noise. Could be very useful if you want some detail in a glow, if you want, lots of stuff. Then it also really works well with, let's say you want to grade up, or you want to add in front a snowstorm, or you want some wind in front of a helicopter. You could plug this into a grade. You could plug this into a distortion node. Very useful. If you have, I used this recently. Just have like 3 different layers of this moving, one faster than the other. The size different than the others, and just have these move in front as wind, as dust, as whatever. So I think we all get that. That's super simple stuff. And by the way, if any seniors are watching and you're like, I already know all this, yeah, sorry. I can't do everything. Cool. So you have the same with, so frame is used for wave animations, which is this backdrop here. We'll go through them pretty quick because they are pretty simple as well. If you just type in, make a grade, press X, random. There you go. That's a random wave function. And then you can change it by putting an X maybe in it so it moves. And if you want to like increase the values, you want to offset it to go up +1. Simple. Now it's here. If you want to move it down, -1. If you want to, let me just set this back so you can see the difference. If you want to scale it up, just ×2. You scale the whole thing up, right? Makes sense. It's pretty good to understand how to modify these wave expressions because they work the same for all the wave expressions. And then if you go into the brackets, you can adjust the frequency. So if I go x divided by 2, it'll stretch out over the axis, so it goes slower. Cool, I think everyone gets this. Now let's go through the expressions. So here I have an x, open parentheses, x divided by 2, close parentheses, times 2. You get something like this. Now, when is this useful? I'm glad you asked. You can use this for, I don't know, like a siren or something, like a light on a wall that's blinking or whatever. And then you could also use this for in the transform for whenever you need this. Maybe maybe you need like a printer thingy that goes, you know. It goes the same for the noise, pretty much the same. So it's very similar to random. I don't think I need to explain it. You can see the curves. It's a little bit more. So it seems to be a little bit more. Less random, so I guess that's why it's called random. So it has certain peaks. If you draw like a line across like the 2 and the 1.5 and the 1, you see it bounces off there a lot, right? So that's something that a random doesn't really do. It's more random. I don't really see the need to. I usually use random. I don't. You can use them interchangeably, pretty much. So let's go over to Sine. This is pretty nice if you need like a cool sort of recurring animation. How do you call that? Is that the right word? Doesn't really matter, does it? You know what I mean. So something like this. It just kind of goes. If you've done like math in school, which this is pretty basic math, you will know this expression from your younger years. And then you have cosine, which is exactly the same. Okay, I'm getting a notification. The same with an offset. So if we look at this, it's just slightly offset. See? Cosine. So you can pretty much use these interchangeably as well, but it's good to know. And then you can combine them into something like this. Why is this so slow? Now, obviously the same, you can use it for like ambulance sirens and things like that. So here what I've done is I just put the cosine in the x, put the sinus in the y, and then rotate it with the cosine as well. You can see a little circle here that it moves along. Pretty cool. And then you have some more complicated stuff, and these you just, I mean, I don't know them by heart, to be honest. Like you've got like a I just know that Sine is this, but I won't, if I type it out, generally I'll have forgotten about it in like a week. So I just Google these, and these are more like the triangle bounced thingies. You can see the curve tool here, the curve editor. And you can see it's a lot sharper in the animation. Square, very useful to know that you can do this. It's basically a blip animation. So maybe a light that goes on and off. Wait, is this the blip? This is in the blip animation. Whoa. I did not prepare well enough, apparently. Alright, now it's a blip animation. So on, off. So if you need like a blinking light, easiest thing ever, right? Then we have a bounce, which is the, I think ABS stands for absolute. If you need to animate a ball bouncing, or if you need to do a similar thing with a light, like a bouncing animation in a light. Pretty useful to know that you can just Google that and implement that in your script. Okay, now we get to the sort of the real useful stuff in your scripts. I'm not gonna go over all of them. Most of these have to do with sort of the text on the nodes. But one that I really like, you can see how it works. It's just like a simple line. I'll zoom in here, I'm not gonna read that out. And you can see that now the gain, for instance, shows up on the node. Now this is super useful if you're gonna manage like a project and you just want that all the time. You can just like hard code that into the nuke files, that it always does that. But one thing I really like, if it's not set up like that, it's have like a values, like let's say open bracket values minus the and this, and then closed brackets. It's one thing I really do quite a lot. If I have like if I need some more overview in my scripts. And so you can see once this size is not the default value, which is 0, it starts showing up on the blur node. So I don't have to go like into my blur node to see what the value is if I want to like match it with a different blur node, stuff like that. And you can see the same for the mix. Sometimes this kind of gets a bit messy, like the shuffle node. I recently saw that could get like a little bit messy, you see. But it works really well for transform, blurs, grades. Here you have a similar thing for showing the inputs on the nodes. Pretty useful. You can all Google this stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into this. And if you want to show the layers, it's got piping through. Stuff like that. Pretty useful. Now, more expressions. Width is a keyword that you can use in the expression tab in Nuke, and it's just gonna be the width of your pixels. You see? So you can just make a gradient from left to right. Pretty useful to know that you can do that. The same for Y. You can turn it the other side up as well. If you want to make lines, there's a nice Sine. Oh, of course it doesn't show. There's a nice Sine expression, a nice sinus expression that you can use if you want to make lines. Super useful to have. By the way, this video is just gonna be pretty much me just saying, look at all these expressions you can use. It's not gonna be more than that. Usually I do like a in-depth dive into a tool or like a technique. Not this time. I'm just gonna look here. Vertical lines, pretty useful to know that you can do that. I'll zoom in on these. If you need like a weird scan line thing and you're in a TV or something. Ain't that nice? Now, I don't expect you to remember these at all. Like I just want to know that they exist, and the moment I need it, I'll just like, Google it. Just hey, I want horizontal lines, nuke expression. You can do the same with like a weird fucking circular texture. So yeah. You can do the same with a sort of a flare texture. You can merge them over each other for a trippy little thing. Okay, so that's super useful to know that you can do that, right? You can also, if you have a roto, for instance, and you're like, okay, but I just want full alpha values. You can use like an expression if A is smaller than 1, which is the alpha, then alpha is 0. So it crushes it. It crushes it to wherever alpha is 1. pretty useful if you have some edge problems or you just want like, you want to get rid of the values under 1. Now you can do the same the other way. You can fill the alpha with a similar expression. Cool. You can make yourself an ST map that you can modify later on. And then what's this again? Right. Okay, cool. I've forgotten about my own expression. Nice. All right. So let's say, geez, I'm an idiot. So I made a pixel here, nan, which is pretty much a pixel that falls outside of whatever new can read. And sometimes a camera there will be like a broken sensor or something, and this is what you get back. There will be like broken pixels in your screen, and that happens. And then a way to fix that is with this expression, super useful to know. So here, basically what the expression says is, so if the pixels is nan, then it will grab a pixel, this pixel, x plus 1. Now you can also change it. So if I look through there, you can see it disappears. But really what it does, it copies over this pixel 1 pixel to the right. Now what you can also do is say, okay, I want x. I want x plus 1 and I plus 1. I plus 1? Y plus 1. So now it will grab this pixel and it will just copy it over there. Just know that it exists. So next time you have this problem, you go, fuck yeah, I know something. I know something that can fix this pretty easily. Now, in one of my latest videos, I went all in depth on this. So if this doesn't compute with you immediately, that's fine. You can just watch that video. Let's say your plate has been chronosed and suddenly, and you've already done the comp on the normal speed, and suddenly, everything breaks. Everything breaks in the 3D space. What you can just do is copy over with this expression, curve, open parentheses, Chronos 1, if it's named Chronos 1. If it's about Chronos 2, then obviously type Chronos 2. If it's an O-flow, say O-flow 1 or 2 or whatever, and then timing frame 2, which is this. You can see it pop up. And suddenly, boom, your camera is retimed. If I compare the two, do the same for this. Now you can see the difference. It is retimed. Super useful to know. A lot of people make this way harder than it has to be. There are like gizmos for it. There are super long expressions for it, but really it's as simple as this guy. Okay, cool. And then lastly, I talked about this last week, or well, last episode. I should really start calling this pretty much every 4 weeks Comp Tip Tuesday, because I'm not very consistent. But we talked about this. Oh shit! It's the $sign GUI. So what this does, if you haven't seen that video, it's so now you can see it gives back a value of 1, and that is because I have the viewer open. So this is super useful when you render stuff out on the farm. If you render locally, it won't work, but if you render stuff out on the farm, it will take the 0 pipe, this pipe, and then while you're working, it will show the 1 pipe. So what you can do is have like a cheap blur node here in terms of computing power, and have like a heavy defocus node or a bokeh node here, and that way you don't have to like remember to switch them off and on when you're working on that. Super useful. Cool. You can do the same if you're working locally, if you're rendering out locally rather, except the expression is a little bit different. You will have to press this Python button here and say nuke.executing and then open close, and it will give back the opposite value of the GUI. So it will take the 0 pipe when it's not executing, when you're working, and then it will take the 1 pipe when you're executing. Cool. So it would be something like this. Now that's pretty much all the expressions I use like fairly often. I'm sure there are more, but these are the ones that I can think of. If you have any good ones, don't be afraid to let me know in the comments. That'd be great. I always want to learn more useful things. Yeah, I hope this wasn't like a weird sort of ramble and too much of a random episode, but I just wanted to show you all the expressions, man, all the useful tools. I'm sure a lot of you will go like, yeah, I already knew this, but can't win them all, you know. Hopefully to some of you this was useful. All right, well, have a great Tuesday. Bye bye.